Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. With Riftshade's open beta and launch just around the corner, there's one question I've been seeing everywhere. What class should I play? So today, I'm going to rank every class in patch 4.8 based on what I believe is their overall value. Now, before we get started, this isn't just a PvP tier list, and it isn't just a PvE tier list either. So I'm taking everything into account. PvE, 1v1s, small-scale PvP, group PvP, sieges, RVR, damage, survivability, and utility. This tier list is based on my own experience after years of playing Aion, so it's ultimately my opinion. If you disagree with one of my placements, that's completely fine. I'd love to hear your own rankings in the comments. With that said, let's get started. Alright, let's see. Gladiator. I think it's gonna be in B tier. Because if you're looking for a class that deals massive damage and excels both in PvE and PvP, Gladiator is one of the strongest choices available. It has excellent AoE capabilities, high burst potential, and can be absolutely devastating in group fights when played well. In PvE, Gladiators consistently perform well thanks to their strong sustained damage, while in PvP they can punish opponents with powerful combos and crowd control. One thing I also like about Gladiator is the flexibility of its vision stigmas. Whether you prefer repeatable AoE pressure, area denial with the flag summon, or a powerful range attack, each option offers a different way to approach combat. So why am I only placing Gladiator in B tier then? For me, it comes down to overall value. While Gladiator excels at dealing damage, I don't think it brings the same level of utility or versatility as the classes I'll be placing above it. So when I'm looking at every aspect of the game, from PvE to large-scale PvP, I believe there are simply classes that contribute more to their group. That being said, having an extended weapon changes the equation quite a bit. Once a Gladiator gets an extend, the reach, pressure, and overall PvP potential increases significantly. If you're talking about the Gladiator with an extended weapon, I'd probably place it in A tier instead. Next up, Templar. I'm going to put it in the OP tier. Why? Let's find out. Templar has always been one of the most unique classes in Aion. While it's never going to max out the damage charts, that's not what the class is designed to do. Its greatest strengths are survivability, crowd control, and protecting both itself and its teammates. Whether you're tanking an instance or leading the charge in PvP, a good Templar has an incredible amount of control over the battlefield. In PvE, Templars are one of the most reliable tanks in the game. Their consistency, defensive toolkit, and ability to handle difficult encounters make them a valuable addition to almost any group. In PvP, their role is just as important. Don't think of them as just a meat shield, as Templars have one of the highest burst damage combos that, if you're at the end of it, you'll pray you have your remove shock up, or your own Templar to use bodyguard on you, or else you won't survive. A simple knockdown into break power, pitiless blow, into auto attack, punishing thrust can easily 100 to 0 a squishy target. I also want to mention that in 4.8, Templars have been buffed significantly. Having access to both Imperium Providence and damage-oriented stigmas makes them super consistent. A skilled Templar knows when to engage, when to peel for teammates, and when to disrupt the enemy backline. They aren't just soaking damage, they're creating opportunities for the rest of the team. In the hands of a skilled player, a Templar can become a real raid boss on the battlefield. They're incredibly difficult to bring down, and if left unchecked, they can control the pace of an entire fight. Of course, the class isn't perfect, isn't the fastest at leveling, and if your only goal is dealing the highest damage possible, there are better options available. But this isn't a damage tier list, it's an overall one. When I consider everything the class brings to the table, survivability, utility, reliability, in PvE, both in PvE and PvP, and its ability to scale with player skill, I genuinely believe Templar deserves a place in the OP tier. Next up is Assassin. I'll place them in B tier. If your playstyle revolves around catching opponents off guard and eliminating them before they have a chance to react, Assassin is one of the most rewarding classes in Aion. With exceptional burst damage, high mobility, and access to stealth, Assassins excel at picking off isolated targets and punishing mistakes. In the hands of a skilled player, it can completely dominate 1v1 encounters and quickly turn the tide of a small-scale fight. However, the Assassin is also one of the most mechanically demanding classes in the game. Success depends heavily on positioning, timing, and knowing exactly when to engage or when to disengage. A single mistake can often mean the difference between securing a kill and becoming one yourself. Another factor that's worth mentioning is the ping. Assassin is arguably the most latency-dependent class in Aion. The class rewards precise execution, and having a low ping makes a noticeable difference when chaining skills, animation cancelling, and maximizing your burst damage. If you're playing with higher latency, you'll have a much harder time reaching the class's full potential. While Assassin shines in duels and small-scale PvP, I don't think it provides the same level of utility or overall impact in larger group fights as some of the higher ranked classes. Its primary role is eliminating key targets, but outside of that, its contribution is more limited compared to classes that offer support, utility, crowd control, or frontline presence. For these reasons, I'm placing Assassin in B tier. Alright, Ranger. Let's put him in C tier. Ranger is one of those classes that can be incredibly frustrating to fight when played well. With excellent sustain damage, strong kiting potential, and plenty of tools to keep opponents at the distance, a skilled Ranger can quickly punish positioning mistakes and control the pace of a fight. The class performs decently in PvE and can deal consistent damage throughout longer encounters. In PvP, Rangers excel at keeping pressure on their targets while looking for opportunities to finish them off before they can close the gap. However, that's also where many of the class's weaknesses begin to show. Once an enemy manages to get into melee range, Rangers often have to work much harder than other classes to regain control of the fight. They also rely heavily on positioning, gear, and maintaining distance to perform at their best. When I compare Ranger to the rest of the classes in 4.8, I simply don't think it offers enough overall value across every aspect of the game. It lacks the utility of support classes, the survivability of tanks, and the game-changing presence that some of the higher ranked classes bring to group PvP and large-scale battles. That doesn't make Ranger a bad class, far from it. In the right hands, it can still be incredibly effective and rewarding to play. But based on my overall criteria, I'm placing Ranger in C tier. Let's see, the Cleric, A tier. Nah, never mind, it's S tier. If there's one class that every serious group wants, it's the Cleric. As Aion's premier healing class, Cleric is the backbone of both PvE and PvP. Their ability to keep teammates alive while providing powerful support makes them one of the most valuable classes in the game. In PvE, Clerics are practically indispensable. Whether you're tackling difficult instances or challenging endgame bosses, a skilled Cleric can often be the difference between a successful run or a party wipe. Their impact carries also on to PvP as well. Beyond healing, Clerics bring valuable crowd control, defensive cooldowns, cleansing abilities, and the survivability to stay in the fight under heavy pressure. A good Cleric isn't just reacting to damage, they're constantly making decisions that can completely change the outcome of an engagement. One thing that often gets overlooked is how expensive the class is to gear properly. To get most out of a Cleric, you'll typically want multiple gear sets for different situations. Depending on your playstyle and the content you're focusing on, that can easily mean carrying 5 or more sets, making Cleric one of the most demanding classes in the game when it comes to gearing. But when I look at the overall value the Cleric brings to the game, it's impossible to ignore. They're consistently in demand, excel both in PvE and PvP, and remain one of the most impactful classes throughout every stage of progression. For these reasons, Cleric goes into S tier. Next up is Chanter. We'll put him in B tier. If you're looking for a class that can adapt to almost any situation, Chanter is an excellent choice. While it cannot match a Cleric's healing or a Gladiator's damage, it makes up for it with versatility. Between its buffs, supportive abilities, respectable damage, and solid survivability, Chanter is a class that can comfortably fill multiple roles depending on what the group needs. In PvE, Chanters are highly valued for the utility and buffs they bring to the party, while still contributing meaningful damage. In PvP, they can support teammates, disrupt enemies with stuns and knockdowns, and even hold their own surprisingly well in 1v1 situations. Like Cleric, the Chanter is also one of the more expensive classes to gear properly. To perform at a high level across every type of content, you'll want multiple gear sets for different situations, whether you're focused on healing, support, or damage. As a melee class, Chanter also benefits tremendously from an extended weapon in PvP. Having that extra range makes landing crowd control, maintaining pressure, and sticking to targets much more consistent. It's one of the biggest upgrades a PvP Chanter can get. However, versatility comes at a cost. Chanter does a lot of things well, but it rarely excels at any single role the way that more specialized classes do. Because of that, I don't think it reaches the same overall impact as the classes in A or S. For those reasons, I'm placing Chanter in B tier. Next up is Sorcerer. We'll place them in A tier. If your goal is to deal massive damage from the moment you start progressing, Sorcerer is one of the strongest choices in Aion. With exceptional burst damage, powerful crowd control, and access to some of the strongest magical abilities in the game, Sorcerers are a constant threat in both PvE and PvP. A skilled Sorcerer can quickly take over a fight by locking down key targets while dealing devastating damage from a safe distance. However, one thing many players overlook is the difference between a traditional ranged Sorcerer and a melee Sorcerer. By weaving spells with freezing wind in melee range, experienced players can significantly increase their damage output. It's a much riskier playstyle since you're fighting much closer to your target, but a payoff is well worth it. A well-played melee Sorcerer can outdamage a ranged Sorcerer by a noticeable margin. Of course, that extra damage comes with a trade-off. Sorcerers remain one of the squishiest classes in the game, and getting caught out of position can often mean a quick death. Knowing when to play aggressively and when to keep your distance is what separates a good Sorcerer from a great one. While Sorcerer has all the tools to dominate fights, its lower survivability keeps it just outside of my top tiers. It has incredible carry potential, but it also punishes mistakes much harder than any other classes. For these reasons, Sorc goes into A tier. Spiritmaster, definitely an S tier. Spiritmaster is, without a doubt, one of the most frustrating classes to play against in Aion. While it may not always deliver the explosive burst of a Sorcerer, it more than makes up for it with incredible crowd control, sustained damage, and unmatched utility. Between its fears, silences, roots, dispels, damage over time, and loyal spirit companion, the Spiritmaster has all the tools needed to dictate the pace of a fight. A skilled SM doesn't simply deal damage, they slowly take away your options until there's nothing left for you to do. In PvE, Spiritmasters bring consistent damage while also offering valuable utility that benefits the entire group. In PvP, they excel in everything from 1v1s to large-scale battles, constantly disrupting enemy players and forcing them to play on their own terms. Like the Assassin and Sorcerer, the Spiritmaster also has a high skill ceiling. Managing your positioning, controlling your pet, keeping damage over time effects active, and choosing the right moment to use your crowd control separates an average SM for an exceptional one. The class isn't without weaknesses. It requires good awareness, proper pet management, and and can struggle if caught off guard before establishing control. But once a Spiritmaster gains momentum, they're one of the hardest classes in the game to stop. When I look at the complete package, the damage, utility, crowd control, PvE performance, and the impact in every form of PvP, VSM easily earns a place in S tier. The Gunslinger. We'll put it in C tier. How the mighty have fallen. The Gunslinger is one of the most mobile and flashy classes in Aion. With excellent range, high mobility, and a toolkit for offensive abilities, it can quickly punish enemies that are caught out of position. In PvE, the Gunslinger is capable of dealing respectable damage, while in PvP it excels at kiting opponents and creating space to safely pressure its targets. However, they got heavily nerfed in 4.8. Unlike previous versions of the game where you could rely almost entirely on your pistol kit, that's no longer enough. To stay competitive, you need to make full use of both your pistols and your ether cannon, constantly swapping weapons to maximize your damage output. That makes the class considerably more demanding to play effectively. Mastering weapon swaps and knowing when to transition between the two weapons is essential if you want to get most out of the class. Even then, when I compare the Gunslinger to the rest of the roster, I don't think it brings enough overall value to justify a higher placement. While it's mobile and capable of dealing solid damage, it lacks the utility, survivability, and overall impact that many of the higher ranked classes provide across every aspect of the game. That certainly doesn't make Gunslinger a bad class, and in the hands of an experienced player it can still be very effective, but based on my overall criteria, I'm placing them in C tier. Next up we have the Aethertech. We'll put it in the A tier. Aethertech is one of the tankiest damage dealers in Aion. It combines impressive survivability with strong sustained damage, making it a reliable choice in both PvE and PvP. In PvE, the Aethertech performs consistently well while being much more forgiving than many other DPS classes thanks to its durability, as well as flexing as a tank if needed. In PvP, it can stay in the fight for a long time, pressure multiple targets, and punish players who underestimate just how difficult it is to bring one down. What really makes the Aethertech stand out, however, is its unique ability. It's the only class capable of effectively removing a Templar's bodyguard using their drill bore stigma skill. Considering how influential Templars are in group PvP, that's an incredible valuable tool that no other class can replicate. Of course, Aethertech isn't without weaknesses. It lacks the explosive burst of classes like Sorcerer or Assassin, and getting the most out of the class still requires good positioning and proper cooldown management. But when I look at the complete package, strong damage, excellent survivability, and unique utility that can directly counter one of the strongest defensive abilities in the game, I think the Aethertech more than earns its place in A tier. Last but certainly not least, we have the Songweaver. Definitely OP tier. Songweaver is one of the strongest all-around classes in 4.8, and a big reason for that is how much its support specialization was buffed. In PvE, Songweaver provides excellent healing while also contributing meaningful damage and valuable party support. It's a flexible class that can adapt to different situations without sacrificing too much in either role. But it's in PvP where the Songweaver truly shines. With the improvements to its support build in 4.8, the Songweaver became an absolute menace in group fights. Between its healing, buffs, crowd control, defensive utility, and ability to keep allies alive while constantly disrupting the enemy team, it brings an incredible amount of value to every engagement. Unlike many classes that excel in one aspect of the game, the Songweaver performs exceptionally well across the board. Whether you're playing PvE, dueling, roaming in small groups, or taking part in large-scale RVR and sieges, it's almost always a class you're happy to have on your side. Of course, like any other support class, reaching its full potential requires excellent awareness, positioning, and decision making. A poorly played Songweaver will never have nearly the same impact as a skilled one. But when I look at everything the class brings to the table, its healing, utility, flexibility, and the massive improvements to its support specialization in 4.8, I genuinely believe the Songweaver deserves a place in the OP tier. And that is my overall class tier list for Aion Riftshade. Remember, this is based on my own experience and what I believe each class brings across every aspect of the game, from PvE and 1v1s to group PvP and large-scale RVR and sieges. I'm sure some of you will agree with these placements, and I'm equally sure some of you won't. That is completely fine. I would love to hear your own tier list down in the comments. If you think I've got a class completely wrong, let me know why. I'm always interested in hearing different perspectives. If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. With Riftshade launching soon, I've got plenty more content planned, including guides, PvP videos, and plenty of Templar gameplay. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.